So, how old do you guys think Earth really is? One thing we've got going on this planet is we understand when we've identified a liar, we discard pretty much every word they say. And we pay attention to the grammar they use and just a couple sentences. And once we have detected that a person is creating a bullshit, then all we have is studying their grammar level. Is this a second grader, fifth grader? Is this an award-winning writer? And the words they use will also tell us what they know and do. Like a construction worker will talk about gravel, and a priest will not. A priest will talk about the Bible, or a medicine man will have some expensive drugs to sell you, and probably talk about money and drugs. So we can gain information in this manner when hearing sounds, and also body language can tell us stuff too. Other than that, you really have to be around someone several weeks, like live with them. I've noticed to really think you understand, and I actually recommend. I don't recommend, but I would say you have to live with someone for over 2 months. Probably, I don't know where it ends, but I know in analyzing situations that I don't know anyone I haven't lived with under 2 months, and the other people like I've probably lived with a long time, over 2 months. So, um, anyway, so you have the discussion there of history. Like there's history, right? And you also have this computer, these computer things do crazy stuff. They invent movies that look better than anything ever invented in history. They invent people. Um, they haven't shown you that in full scale yet, but they've hinted at that in documentaries about clones, and in some of the music, and the religions. Half the religions, about 1,500 religions tell you things were created. Maybe all of them, but I'm leaving room for error right there. So you have a you have the ability to generate worlds in the blink of an eye. And so people, I don't like wasting time, so it's you gotta cut out that time, like where you'll be stuck in the cave for life if you're stuck in the cave. Really good allegory there, because there's Plato's cave allegory, which is describing what's going on here on Earth. So uh, yeah, you'll be stuck in the cave your whole life if you think any of this is real. Um, so you're walking backwards in life. You start as a toddler. Some people choose to walk forward, and some people choose to walk back into the womb, and back into their dad's nut sack, and then you go far enough back, you're back in his dad's nut sack. The cycle. You can go either way in life. You make the decisions where you go. Uh, that's what you guys tell me. So, and that's what you guys tell me I do, right? I make the decisions where I go, oh yeah, I control the weather too. Don't forget that. And I create humans, and I create the world. But I'm a dumbass. So, yeah, I'm the dumbass going around, um, you know, telling people they're crazy if they see invisible people, and then goes around telling everyone I see invisible people and shit. Right? I'm that dumbass. Fucking yeah. Well, you can't make up the shit that happens here. But anyway, so with the history, what I notice here is some of this stuff, like, since 2020, obviously someone has renamed their computer to AI. And they were planning on that for a while. They tried to rename it quantum computing, and it didn't quite catch on because they didn't they didn't show you they had AI yet, right? You can see they were half inventing movies already in 2007 with what is that? Ghost Rider. You can clearly see that's AI because it's the slop. That's where the term comes from. Like, AI likes to create all these distractions from reality. But the term slop comes from the pictures looking like slop, like watercolor art, and it all slopped together. Like a child finger painting with liquid paint and, slopping the paint upon the canvas. That's where the term comes from. And you can clearly see in 2007 Ghost Rider that it has that slop effect, blurry, not blurry at all, very high quality, but sloppy, like literally slop. That's why the term exists. Like, you take a spoonful of baked beans and you fling it at the wall, and that's what the first rollout that they show you can do, right? So we have Ghost Rider when he goes into the fire form and stays into it is the exact same thing you can instant generate right now in half a second. And it has a very specific art style never seen before, unless we add quality and color definition to Van Gogh's artwork or any other watercolor artist. He's just the only watercolor artist who's really talked about too much. So, and Bob Ross also kind of had slop, but it was, because he just tap. It's exactly how a baby slops their finger paint. He just did it a lot more professional, and he didn't use watercolors. Watercolor painting is more accurate. It is the closest art that's previously been released. That is like the first AI slop software they let you use and stuff. No, if you haven't used the AI artwork, then maybe you don't know. But when they first started putting it out, in like 2022 for other people to use, and the people have been using it to generate their stuff for centuries, put it out for other people to use in 2020, then you could, at least one out of every three, but generally the rule was you have to create 5 pictures because something's going to be wrong with 4 of them. And 2 of them would just be like slop, like take a spoonful of baked beans and flip it at the wall. And that's, a horse, that's Ghost Rider. So you can easily see that is the same exact stuff, right? Same exact stuff that you would get during the year 2022, 2026, and occasionally now you still might get when you type in a couple words. If I type Ghost Rider into AI generating software, it would come up with 2007 Ghost Rider, right? So we can see continually that the history here is lies and made up. Like, they've had this stuff for a long time. They say they had the internet in 1950, 1960, something like that, and they just wanted to use it as a weapon of war, George Orwell style in America, and literally only military use in UK, who actually invented it. And but let's look at some of the other shit that's happening. Lots of stuff's being auto-generated here. You can see that now, and so now they have an excuse for, oh, well, you're being deceived by AI slop, as if this wasn't happening in the past. There's tons of instantly generated garbage on YouTube now, right? And so many of the advertisements clearly are leaving a mark. Some of them aren't even clear. So some of them are purposely leaving a mark to show you, like the puppeteer of Pinocchio is purposely leaving that mark there for you to see it. Just like the creator of the story of Pinocchio was leaving a mark for you to see who Pinocchio is and who Geppetto is. Mm-hmm. So, see, that shit was created when I was like born, when I was already here. That's one of those things we can see as a preset storyline. See, you got to sort that out because Geppetto and Pinocchio, the only thing they're doing is making up bullshit. They're making up stories. Like, probably the people of the Ghost Rider film, they made up a bullshit story that they spent all day creating that stuff. And they need paid $20 billion because they spent all day creating it. Right. Pinocchio can never stop lying. And Geppetto created Pinocchio in his image. And the person who created the story of Pinocchio is using those to secretly link everything together, place it in time. And that right there in itself is a watermark in time showing you that that was created before I get given the brush to start painting shit, right? That's unless I'm 2 years old and I meet one of these people and I'm like, I don't even know what these words mean till I'm like fucking 33, right? That's when Jesus dies, right? That just magically happens to be the number when God exists and Jesus is gone forever, fucking. Anyway, so it was like till I'm 33. So that's one of those things. It's a little bit off topic, but I need to document this because I'm trying to fucking document this and the whole storyline here because I've just got like the whole fucking thing documented at this point. The counter arguments. Not that you can actually get a word in sideways with Pinocchio and Geppetto, but the facts are the facts. So give me a second here. What should we call this? Sight, but these are the unveilings. These are the things placed in time. Preset, that's right. Things placed in time. Presets. So these are the preset storyline because there's some creation going on here. And there's a discussion, which no one wants to have in the open, but they want to yap about it behind their clothes. They want to fucking take all day long to fucking yap about it and waste my time when no one else is around to hear the discussion. Sometimes other people are around and I can like talk like they do over them and other people can hear what I'm saying. And that ends up being actually how a lot of people are getting educated in the year 2016 to 2020 is when the Pinocchio and Geppetto would come along and try to slop up my life with some bullshit. I, like everyone else in the room, would be educated by them slopping and me pointing out, like, hey, that's slop. Yeah, that's not true. You're just slopping shit together, Pinocchio. And I get louder so everyone in the fucking block can hear me like, Pinocchio, I think you're lying again. This is what's really happening. And there's a lot of that shit happening in 2020. And they're like, no, the Bible. If you question me, you're gonna be tortured forever in hell by my enemy. Because my enemy works for me. Blah, 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 blah. Preset storyline. Okay, so we have that there. So we have preset things set in time. And this everything is part of everything. So this, of course, can easily be discussed as how old is Earth actually? Um, First of all, they're saying something. Again, the rule is if you talk about Santa Claus, no, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because there is no baby. But we can examine the bathwater if there is actually bathwater and see what's in there. And, maybe take a sip of it and see what chemicals or heavy metals or other ingredients are in it, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Pinocchio is a preset storyline here, right? Just like 2020 is a preset event. 2020 vision. Some things they try to convince you are not preset events happening or things. But yet the repeat patterns show you that this is indeed a preset software code repeating itself on some things at least, right? So when I can't say for sure, right? Because I go to a store and I ask for something and it's out of place. The store doesn't sell it. Or, I'm on the potato chip aisle and candy aisle, and then there's that soap I wrote down I need, or I go into the store, like my eyes are looking at this thing way out of place. I just happen to scan it and find it. So things like that happen. So we don't know how deep that goes, to what extent I am actually even in control of myself, yet alone playing along with David Copperfield's fake illusions. Geppetto's illusion line that he gets rich off of Pinocchio by scamming them with fake magic. But the things set in time show you that there's most likely a preset storyline, and that means those things that puts those things themselves in a gray area for what time they could have been invented, right? Because 2020 vision, I'm claiming that means that was invented. 2020 was the year of a perfect vision and sight to be shown to the world, and it most likely I'm like, yeah, that's a preset storyline because I know that as a child. So at what point in time was that created? Pinocchio and Pinocchio Tier 1, Geppetto, will waste my time arguing about I own a time machine and I'm traveling back in time and creating 2020 vision. I'm creating the doctor who created that term in the 1940s to then make up my story. Pinocchio's nose grows longer, bigger, and stronger every time. And Geppetto just looks fucking more uglier and stupid every time he lies. You can't do anything about it. You can't make Geppetto look fucking worse. There's no fucking attempting to visualize that most of the time. So the preset things seem pretty preset, and that points to history being not as long, not as old as people think, because the characters around that event are probably not living beings, and they don't necessarily have to even be created because they're a character, like Pinocchio's a character in a book, and without he doesn't exist, but without him there's no story of a person creating a character who lies constantly and can't do anything else, and nose grows when they lie and ends up with the nose out to here, right? So We don't know for sure, but we do know that the likelihood that that wasn't invented by that person, and it wasn't. We know it's not invented for that purpose. So we have the likelihood that it was invented by that person or wasn't, and which lends credence to, did that person even exist? Which also lends credence to, if people didn't exist, certain people didn't exist during that time frame, are they just making up new characters and adding them, or or did nothing exist during that time frame? Because you get to the point where you're removing lots of people. Now, when you get to one person, when you get to the creator of 2020 vision being fake, that's just one person, right? Like, oh, it's so easy to create one character. But 7 degrees of separation, a term I'm forced to learn to understand its meaning, um, is is where when one person doesn't exist, 7 degrees of separation from it doesn't exist either. You know, when the first thing I have a question of when I meet the clones is, you know, it's like, wow, are you like Satan or something? Because the clone appears and then they start talking to me about what they did last week and their children and their parents and their job history. They've been working real hard, and right away, it feels like an insult. It feels like Satan's like slapping me in the head with a brick and telling me I'm stupid, because something, obviously this is what's happening here. Pinocchio's slapping me in the head with a brick and telling me I'm stupid to shut up and listen. And so what really is happening here is a clone, a replica is appearing. And this is either, we know, this is either an alien shapeshifter, it's being created on the spot, or it's an actor, right? Some things might be being created a little bit before and then sent to me. Like almost everyone I know comes from somewhere else. That's weird, isn't it? That's not normal for you guys. I study you guys enough to know your lives. Um, Almost everyone I know is from somewhere else. I move constantly, or I did most of my life. And when I don't go outside. So um, I have very little continued interaction. But even with that, they still ship in people from other cities and states. They're not, of course, you know, Pinocchio wouldn't lie and they wouldn't be being shipped in from a hard drive or a clone factory. No, they're being shipped in from another state every time, almost every person I know. I know one person who was in Columbus and then left Columbus for a while and then came back. And that's the only close friend I can remember who I knew their past who did any sort of staying in Columbus, um, that I've interacted with. Almost so many people leave it, and you know, like even my dad. You know, that's how my dad ends up here. That's how my grandma ends up here in this city. You know, because they're country people. One's a farmer and one's just country people. They might have had some other shit going on a few decades ago. I don't know. They could have been farmers. But I know the one's a farmer because that's that's what you do when you own a farm. But the other people are more like, I can't tell you for sure. Fucking, I just know they live in a smaller house and not a farm. So, anyway, so it's like everyone I know shipped in, and then when the clones appear, when the new ones, I kind of like, that makes me suspect as well how these other things are appearing, because the clones, when they appear, it's easy to spot them, like especially when I'm listening to like a live conference, and they're not even talking about the conference. It's like a healer of light conference, how to heal people type something, and then all of a sudden it goes into when we offer you these gifts, you must accept them or else you don't have them. This is a problem. There's like, it's pointing out to me that, like, maybe sometimes in the past I've been offered something and I didn't take the gift. And, which did happen the one time I met a metalhead when I was like 33, because I was around other people who were psycho and I didn't. I mean, it was around several other people who were psycho, and I'm definitely like shit. The one stabbed me. The one fucking trapped me with her for years, because every time I tried to move a little vape pen out of the house, she somehow noticed it was missing and shit. It went fucking psycho berserk. So it was hinting at me before that it was trying to bait me with this offering. And it was showing me that not only were the people in the device on the conference probably not real people, but or they're robots. It's one of the two. It didn't Vince, whatever. I haven't seen Donald Trump and shit, and they didn't send Roger Stone to the event I came to, and they tried to get me to go hang out. My ex was talking to me about going to hang out with Donald Trump, and she was grooming me to dress like Donald Trump and, fucking dress like those people do, dress like suits do, and do suit things and have gifts. So I look like I'm in my Trump apparel and shit like that. So she was trying to get me to go there, but it's odd when I went to the RNC, we couldn't tell. We couldn't get within a quarter of a mile. There was a security perimeter set up, and the only people getting in there were like lawyers and businessmen in suits. So no one else was getting into near the building that Donald Trump was supposedly in. Elon Musk kind of appears out of nowhere. So and then I try to go there. I'm thinking about going to work there and stuff, and mostly to investigate. But hey, probably good money. And again, when I'm born, what is it I think I should be if I'm going to be a normal person? A rocket scientist. So, what should I be? It's not what I want to be, it's what can I do while I'm asleep and get paid big bucks for it, and sounds interesting, but it's mostly what should I be doing as a kid? Because, as a kid, I shouldn't get into this because this isn't this video, but let's just end this. As a kid, I should be reading all the time, right? Being forced to go to a library, reading 20 to 60 books a week and shit. Reading so many books that the librarian is asking, what do you do with all these books? And I'm like, read them. Like, would you really read this? Like, yes. Yes, I'd probably get hit upside my head if I didn't, but it's what we do here. And so, that's what I should be. So I'm thinking I'm going to investigate if Elon Musk is real or not. And because I was already watching him for a year, and it's like he comes out of nowhere, and there's no his story to him. He's the owner of PayPal, and then there's nothing. And then all of a sudden he's the richest, smartest man and the president of the United States. And there was nothing in 2020 on him. There was some fake AI generated podcast that looked real, but from some people just magically appeared talking about Elon Musk, but offering no. They're just like Elon Musk Bitcoin, Elon Musk Bitcoin, and there's nothing on him. He appears out of nowhere. So there's this thing that prods me, but I'm not sure. I've met stars before, right? Like my ex worked in Hollywood and tried to take me. So I don't necessarily think everyone's invented right now. but I understand that it might be in the process of the creation. And so if I say someone doesn't exist, which I don't, then it can probably create the being of light, use the light to display the hue, the color, the hue men, the color of men. So if that's accurate as to what's being displayed and not hogwash nonsense, usually though, this is where the truth comes out, is when you look at the parables and the hidden thing. Like I said, do you throw the baby out with the bathwater? Well, there might not even be a baby, and yeah, you definitely throw out all its words out, and then you can taste the flavor of the water and tell you can tell what food the baby ate or what drugs it took, what heavy metals are in its body, and then what chemicals and toxins and metals and chlorine is in the water. Like it has nothing to throwing the baby out with the bathwater. To me, it has nothing to do with babies. It'd be about studying the whole situation. It's just, it's cliche. Very, very, very useful things. The parables are generally useful, and the cliche actually generally, unlike a parable, means exactly what it's saying and usually points towards that. So to me, my answer is yes, but of course, a lot of humans are like, no, you don't throw babies out and stuff. But it's like, well, I don't have a baby, so I don't know how to raise them. I guess that's just me. Um, so, anyways, so when it comes to that clone thing, that's where I'm at on seeing does history exist? Because I'm like, wait a minute, it looks like they just invented Elon Musk. Like they invented him, like they invented the idea of the man in a couple PayPal videos a long time ago, and he looked like a very different person. And he's had plastic surgery since. You can clearly see that because he has hair now that he's like 50, 60, and he had no hair when he was like 20, 30. He only had a half head of hair. So you can clearly see that the image, if it's not even a totally different person, he actually looks a little bit better these days. But then again, men do tend to look a little bit better as they get a little bit older. Some people do that too. Some females can, but I notice a lot of time with men, like they look like cute little rugrats when they're small, and then they look like Chad. You guys love that stuff, passing that Chad thing around. They look like Chad, or they look like God. They go from looking like Jesus to looking like God, and you know, like I think most people you probably figure that out by the time you're 30. If you're over 30, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like fucking anyway. So that's where I'm at on seeing this. Is like, okay, so how is that happening when I got my live conference about manifesting the world? And that's what that was about. In one ear, and I got one of the clones talking to me on the bus, asking me if I want to come sit down beside her, and I say no, so I can leave the seat for someone else, because there's only that one seat left on the bus, and I'm going to remain standing so other people can use that. And so then at that point in time, the conference instantly goes into, 'cause I can hear her because I got one headphone on almost at all times. So I still have that video playing in the background while she's talking to me. And they're like, if you don't accept the gift, it's like the video's like, if you don't accept the gift, then you can't receive the gift. I'm like, bingo, because I'm like, okay, right. They're telling me people don't like that, and you know what? I'm like, I don't care because I sound like a human and not like a stuck-up suit. And if it makes you feel better and like me more to put on a suit and to sound like a overly educated science nerd, well, then maybe you're not the type of person I would want to hang out with because that's very pretentious. And I'm not a huge fan of that. So I'm like, that's what I'm like. So, anyways, I'm like, okay, I'll come over there and sit down. And so I go and sit beside her, and instantly she starts talking, and her voice is like I'm pretty sure I have the book in there still, where I wrote, as I have writing book in my hand right now. I have a short paragraph of trying to get more of a detailed creation than has previously came. Previously, when I get around some people, I'm just like, well, these are the people, and this is what there is on this planet. Because I would spend a lot of time looking for things, and there would be nothing. So I gave that up real early. And plus, you get like forced into doing things that you have no interest in and are taking your life nowhere and have nothing to do with where the world's heading. And you get punched in the face if you don't do it by your parents or the people, or you get drugged if you don't do it. You get kidnapped. You might get raped. So I learned early on in life that when Pinocchio comes around, just ignore it. It's Pinocchio. And when in Disney fables, do as the Disney fable characters do. Act like you're interested and make up a whole bunch of dumb shit to play along. Fucking not very good at making it up. So I just remained silent most of my life. So at this point in time, I had a paragraph. I'm sure I still have that in one of these books somewhere. I think this one was actually 1.5 paragraphs. And it's basically me writing down the same thing I've always said, because I'm like the video I'm listening to while it's talking to me through this is teaching me that I'm God and I'm inventing the world. And I'm like, yeah. And then Scooby Doo, my talking dog over there, that he's invisible, so you can't see him. And Strawberry Shortcake was a half strawberry flavored muffin cake person. And the reason you don't see her is because I ate her because she was so delicious. You guys know how it is with those strawberry girls. Delicious. Strawberry Shortcake is my favorite cake in the world. It's one bite leads to the next, and the next thing you know, you're all out of cake, aren't you? Oh my God, I thought that was sounding stupid for a second. Damn, I was like, am I finally saying something stupid? No, it was like 20 parables in 2 sentences. Oh, no, I was trying to sound stupid. Anyway, so when that happens, that person starts talking to me, and then that paragraph I have written is what she's telling me she is, right? She's telling me she's a musician. I shouldn't tell you guys because I hate when this shit's like halfway sent to me and it's a poser. That's like the whole problem here is people saying there's something when they aren't. And like that's worse than not even being around anything you like, is being around someone who is lying constantly making up their entire life in order to be around you. And then that ends up being on top of a person lying about everything they are and just not being that person. You know, now they're a lie. Now they're not that person and they're a liar, right? So, so that person is like this paragraph I wrote. I can probably go find it, but I can tell you what it is because it's the same thing every time. I didn't know I have to ask for certain things, and well, I didn't think you could ask for anything because it had never existed before. And then all of a sudden, I start doing the magic gang signs in 2020, and it might have been doing it before, but for some reason, things ramped up in the year of perfect vision. I think that might be what we're talking about. Is how old is history, and when was it made up? You know, 2020 vision. When was that made up? When was 2020 created? When was the year? Was the year 2020 created when the term 2020 vision was created? So that person was like everything in that list. She had the same voice print. And she was real close, right? She had the same voice print. She, as the girl, as the previous one, they had sent me in the first metalhead they sent me in like 2000, 2002, sometime around that time. I think it was like 2002. Had the same voice print because I like specifically asked for a clone of that person, and I said I want them. I also want them to be a musician too. Um, and then turns out, so she has the same voice. Like you hear my voice right now. When I say clone, I mean when you meet a person, if they're a clone of someone, if it were a clone of me, it would sound exactly like this, and it would probably talk like this often, and it would probably make the same pauses and and then yeah, and you'd be like, that's Sean. That's weird, like because Sean's in a different city right now. So that's what I mean when I say clone. There, wonder what this update is. Now that's the charge has reached. Anyways, so the girl had the same voice print as the girl I requested a new version of, and I asked. I wrote in it, must be a musician too, because it's a huge problem here with posers, and I'm not sure she wasn't a poser, to be honest. You don't know someone until after you've been trapped around them for a few months and shit, inside 24/7 with them. Well, I know real fast. I get weird updates, but it's like, technically, I do know things really fast. Fucking. Like the last person, was I dating her? I knew, no, I don't think we officially said we were dating. So two of the last people I hung out with, I knew one girl. I hung out with one girl for like one day, and then before that, the last semi-real thing, I only let that last like a week because I knew right when I walked in the door and met this person that this is not. They're making up who they are. It's not who they really are. Poser. So it would get along better if I wouldn't hang out with them in the first place, most likely. Definitely not for more than a couple days, depending on the situation. But if they didn't make up that lie, but I could tell right away, no, this person's not into this shit. They're wearing a cattle decapitation shirt. And that music's so bad, even I don't like it. But that's the type of music I would turn on to piss a motherfucker off because it's like metal and I can put up with it, but it's real fucking annoying, loud noise metal and shit. Fucking, well, it's gonna be loud no matter what it is when I have it on and shit. But annoying noise, I like to call it extreme noise music. I think they already coined that term, extreme noise music. So like even I don't like that shit. But I listen to like anyone who listens to that listens to a lot of the shit I do. So, um, and Cap actually, I think their new album, I keep an eye because they're so close to being some I like that I keep an eye on it. And I think their new shit, their guitarist fucking stop just fucking wrecking every song by throwing in a dumb little part that you don't fucking need. It just totally killed the whole fucking flow. I think the new one might actually be better. I know a couple of those bands got better recently. That's why I keep an eye on them in case they do. Fucking, but anyway, so she had a cattle decaptured, and I could tell right away, like, after she started talking and a few times, I was like, man, this motherfucker probably don't listen to none of this shit, huh? So I start playing the fucking music. We're getting off track here, aren't we? Fucking. Anyways, this isn't how to spot a poser, but fucking. Anyways, let's just make sure we get back on track here. See, this person came from out of town too, but I could detail all these other people who come from out of town. This person lives out in the countryside and shit, out by the areas that I used to hang out in and shit to the north. Fucking. It really doesn't mean anything compared to the other people who are all shipped in from a different city or different state. Um, anyway, so that motherfucker was yeah. I'll close this. This ties into it because I'm detailing what I ask for and what shows up and how just the fact of the matter that it does show up, and then we'll get there in a second. Anyway, so I'm playing my drums as I used to upload videos of in 2020, right? So everyone's trying to reach that ability to play cattle decap level fucking drums because it's just there's people out there who thinks it's all machine made just because a lot of people can't play shit like that, and some bands like cattle decap obviously are using drum machines and not playing it. Um, so everyone's trying to play that shit, trying to get there and stuff, and I'm like right there. So I'm playing shit like the "What Immortal" by Lorna Shore, and I'm trying to practice that. Everyone wants that in 2020. All the drummers know that shit. Unless you're Rick Beat Off whatever, one of those people who got some drum lessons to sell you and ain't gonna be able to play music like that ever. But they gotta sell their life. They tried, and well, hopefully they obviously Rick won because he's rich. So he had his time, and so everyone in 2020 is trying to learn to play cattle decap and stuff like that. I hate to name that one band. And Lorna Shore had Immortal, which was like, that was like the song I was trying to learn. Everyone else, no one had done a cover of it yet. So I'm spending like hours a day on drums and probably 10 hours, probably 1 to 10 hours a week trying to learn Immortal by Lorna Shore. And I was playing the song, to hear it constantly because it's so complicated and it's not really complicated, but it's like 10 freaking songs into one because it's all so fast and stuff. And so it leads to a lot of work needing to be done to build it. And the illusion, it's complicated because it's 10 songs condensed into 3 minutes at the speed, not the intricacy. Anyway, so I'm playing that, and so I'm testing her with that, and then right away she's like the third time playing it, fourth time, she's like, "Can we stop? Can we change the music?" And it's like, bingo. Like, because that's just the way it is. It was noise to her. But that was like, she's wearing a cattle decap shirt, which is real fucking noise. And this is like really good, well put together, with a standard beat you can bang your head to or dance and jump around to. And you ain't getting none of that from a cattle decap song. That's a song you hit yourself in the head with a drill and then start drilling in your head too, and then go grab someone else and ask them, start drilling in their head and tell them to start hitting you with a jackhammer type, pounding you with a jackhammer, and then the third person comes along with a wrecking ball and smashes you all three, and everyone's like, yeah, fucking cattle decap, bro. Bang your fucking head till you're dead. Okay, so I can tell right away that's a poser. Fucking, because if we can't enjoy the good music, then we can't enjoy the bad music, and we ain't gonna be hanging out with someone like me, because this is what I do, is make music, and go to concerts sometimes, really, shit like that. Hang out with other people. Most of my friends make music, so it's either my life or your fucking poser lying bullshit. Commonly referred to as a groupie, a person who thinks I'm sexy because I'm a metalhead and shit, and I've got talent. So I gotta. I don't know if this new person, back to the clone. So I don't know if this new person is like a poser or not, but they do seem kind of lightweight and shit. And I would definitely not be at all what I ask for, because the Dia person I asked for a similar clone of. The only metalhead I ever met that's female, fucking kind of on my own termish. There's another group, but that was very short lived, and I've known Di for. I met her first 20 years ago, and then people I know who are band members are with that person now. So when I go see their band, she's there, and sometimes when I go to other shows, she's there. So I've known this. I'm closer to knowing this person than I am someone I hung out with for a week. So I don't, I've met a million people. No offense, if we haven't lived together for 2 months, it means I don't think I know you. If you're offended by that, then we're not even friends. I can tell you we're not friends if you're offended by that. That's really disgusting when people get all weird, especially when you tell them, like, hey, the reason we're not hanging out is because I live like 50 miles away and I don't have a car and I move like every 8 months, at the very least. And yeah, my life is just like a big roller coaster. And if you don't jump on that cart with me, then we won't be hanging out for very long. Please don't make me feel bad that my life is a roller coaster and I don't control the brake for it. So, and I also don't control the rails that the coaster is on, automatically. Like, some people do that, and you can tell it's like they want to be my friend, but it's like, just don't be a bitch about it. Understand? That's also two-faced too, because how many of these other people have their own lives? And you're not in it. It's like, well, why haven't you taken me to work with you yet, huh? How come you didn't? So this is a personality you're seeing. So, anyways, yeah, that's going to be automatic disqualification if we test that after we have that. After we let the other person know that we miss them in a very different way than just hugging them and saying, hey, I missed you. In a way where it's like the jealousy and hatred is starting to shine through the personality and possessiveness. So That's one of those other things, like being a poser, you got to test for if you ever experience that. Then again, you'll probably be around someone all the time if it's, no. Everyone I know works and does stuff, and their life is their life. And if you're not a coworker or their lover, then you don't know, you're never going to see those people. To me, that's life. That's how that works. Everything works like that. Um, anyway, so yeah, so we were testing the poser thing there. We weren't fully testing it, but it's like interrogation night, date night. Um, so we were figured this person had the same voice print as the person I wrote down. They were a musician, as I wrote, must be added to it. I had the live conference about manifesting and creating things when the shapeshifter or new being appeared, whatever it is. Actor. I don't think that's what it is. Because I've had two of the clones in the same room. So, I mean, you could. I can do that. I can argue with myself, but maybe I shouldn't assume, but I'm pretty sure that's not the same actor. Anyway, so, I'm interrogating that person. It's date night, interrogation time. Fucking, what you do on a date night. You ask the person what you should do when you meet anyone before you waste their life and sucker them into your next scam is get to know a person. But apparently what happens is that personality is the dominant. Salesmen are the dominant personality on earth when it comes to meeting people and being dominant, because a salesman is trying to sell you junk. It's trying to hawk you junk, so it has to come up to you and be like, yeah, 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 hey, I got this. Yeah, shut up, stop talking. I've got something for you. Bye, 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 bye. No, I don't care. Don't worry. Don't worry about the money. We can front you. We can let you go on half of it. As long as you got half of it today. Bye, 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 bye. Now, you know what? Actually, I'll tell you what. We'll give you a free sample of our cocaine here, and then, which is a bad analogy because cocaine sells itself, and you don't have to go on the street fucking looking for drugs. And they're usually out, so they don't have to go outside to sell them. You usually have to go inside to a business, to a pharmacy or something to buy some drugs because you're after it. They got entire stores dedicated. They don't even have a potato chip store. Think of how many people buy potato chips and hot dogs. There is no potato chip store. There is no hot dog store. So never confuse a drug dealer with a salesman, because they'll do that. You got to learn that, because their patterns show you that they will try to link the two to deflect the conversation. Very simple patterns. You might not understand what I'm saying, but I do. A very simple thing there to explain. Maybe in another video we'll go over the 3 types of salesmen that are in this world that you'll meet on the street hawking you goods. Drug dealers would be a 4th one that you rarely ever see anyways. If you do, I've heard of that story on TV. See, that's a little lie they make up about their drug propaganda, so their people can get rich off that shit. Fucking not and control the planet through their lies. Pinocchio's and Geppetto's fucking business of lies and deceptions. Salesmen are definitely right there on it. So, anyways, so we're going through this person's personality profile. We're talking to them, right? That's what it's called. We're meeting a new person and talking to them. We're doing what you should do if you're trying to communicate with a new person. You get to know them. You act friendly. You talk about things. You're like, hey, I played bingo last night and I won 2 out of 35 rounds. We played for like 8 hours. Grandma was so enthralled. She won at least 6 times, and she also hit the jackpot. So we got a couple free pizzas that night. Something like that. That's how you talk to people. Since people who went to school, unlike me, and talk to people, unlike me, some of them have uh, dropped the ball on the learning process, which is the only useful thing for public school, is to teach you how to talk to people and behave right in social situations. If it works. To be honest, I think school kind of teaches you to fuck school, fuck what they say, but that's advanced learning, right? Once you learn the math, you got to learn the math. You got to learn grammar. And then at that point, if I agree, if you've learned that all that was a waste, I definitely agree that, yeah, you are correct, amundo on that one. Yeah, you, sir, have definitely aced your math and your history and your social studies and your grammar. And you know what? If you have the will and the strength to say it out loud, you probably aced your frickin' physical fitness class too. Because to get the balls to say some shit like that, you're going to want to have some muscle and some training to back up those words, unless you're just straight stupid or don't care. Either way, you don't necessarily have to pass physical hit to get through that, but it's like a prerequisite and stuff to learning to defend yourself when you say absurd or intelligent things that no one else wants to promote because they might be missing out on some sort of profit, or they might feel attacked themselves. They might feel physically attacked, like someone just stabbed them, if you tell them that school was a waste of time, or anything that they've ever spent their life on was a waste of time. Like, I remember once I told a McDonald's worker, like, I was just discussing with them, it's real simple. I wasn't yapping like I am now. I don't do that outside or in my house if other people are around, usually. So I was telling the McDonald's worker, yeah, sometimes McDonald's gets this wrong. Can you make sure you get it right? And they're like, I don't like your attitude. We're McDonald's. We're the best in the world. We don't put up with people like you in our establishment either. And I'm literally just like, I probably said something like, sometimes McDonald's forget to put the extra pickles on my order. Can you make sure there's extra pickles on my order? And they're like, how dare you insult my McDonald's? I am McDonald's. The power of McDonald's compels me. The great purple dinosaur will now trample you for your hate, your insults, hate speech. You have hurt my feelings. That's the person who does fuck up the order every time when they think their McDonald's job is life. They've only worked there 6 months and they're never going to work there again. And they can't understand. See what's happening there, I think. Sorry to interrupt again, but interesting little things. I have to write this shit down. That's why I carry around books, because when I write this shit down, it fucking adds to the reality, like, of what you experience here and shit. They get all offended because they're the person who is fucking up the orders, and it's home and shit. And so they probably feel offended by that. There's no reason to feel offended if someone insults McDonald's. Even if you're the manager or owner of McDonald's. See, the owner of McDonald's isn't offended when you insult McDonald's because he's rich and paid. And what you say is not going to make him go bankrupt. So, and he's like, oh, the bum here doesn't. The owners actually are generally I told an owner once, like, yeah, your stuff's shit. I'm not going to try it again. I'm not going to pay for it again. But if like your commercials say the new formula, you reformulated it, so maybe you figure that out and you change it. And then the manager was like, hell yeah, dude. So I'll send you a Domino's owner, the CEO of Domino's, sends me like 2 to 4 gift cards for free Domino's pizzas, anything I want, as many toppings as I want. And then I go try the new thing, and then he contacts me like 2 months later, and he's like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Nah, dude, it used to taste like wet dog, bro, but it's really good now, and I've been eating Domino's since." That's a manager. Now, the person who's scrubbing the floors but doesn't want to, doesn't do the job right, that's the person who gets offended when you tell them that sometimes McDonald's messes up your order. Please make sure you get the order right. That's the difference there. A lot of times it's the lower tier people doing the enforcement. The enforcement level on the caste system is about 4 levels down below Cleopatra. Cleopatra is not causing all those problems with her hands. Bill Gates is not causing lots of problems with his hands. He might be. He's involved in a lot of stuff, but with his hands, no, he's not designing windows anymore. He's not. He's got people doing most of that shit. People hate him for stuff other than windows, right? Everyone hates him for is not windows. It doesn't even concern him. He's rich off it now. It makes no difference to him, which might be part of the problem with windows. But in that case, anyways. So these other people, the clone person, I'm having the conversation, which turns into me having to explain to people what age they were what the point of school is, and what age they're supposed to learn to converse with people and how to do it properly, because apparently a lot of the conversation you have are the people who failed social, which is the whole point of school, playground and lunchtime and meeting friends, so after school and shit. The school years is for a child to develop social skills. Definitely isn't about everyone becoming a rocket scientist or a professional athlete or learning to tune supercars and stuff, because they don't even teach that in school. So anyway, you got to get carried off on that because that happens so much. So anyways, back to the social understanding. So I'm doing what the social, I got to explain what you do when you talk to someone the first time, because it's so complex and some people don't understand it. Not everyone, but like I said, it might be because the ones who don't understand it are the ones prompting conversations. They're the salesmen. Like, salesmen they probably understand the social conversation, but they're trying to force their life and their ideas on you and try to sell you garbage and shit. They have to force it. A salesman's investing his life to make money, and the street salesmen are selling garbage, but they're investing their life in selling garbage and shit. Like, my friend invested time in selling someone pencil shavings so they could get high off of smoking it. Very profitable for him to finally find someone to buy the bag of pencil shavings. It's 100% profit right there. $25 for nothing. Typical salesman. That's why they have those attitudes where they force their way into your life. They force you to hear what they say. They force your conversation. You don't even know the motherfucker, and they won't shut the fuck up. And then you see the repeat pattern everywhere. Fucking the ones who act like they're not totally psychopaths are probably new to it. And I'll have a conversation with them about, like, no one likes this happening, right? So, like, maybe if you told your boss not to send you to this apartment complex to solicit, that you could get more sales somewhere else. You can't even do it because it says right there on the paper, bro, when you enter, the requirements of living here, and half the utilities already included, so you're wasting your time. And I'm just trying to nudge them into a better career choice than salesmen. If they show signs of that, some of them do. Like the ones who are knocking on doors are a little bit less than the others. The ones in the middle of the street are just ambush you with Pinocchio and a Geppetto near them. Those people, it's always that way. Tier 1 puppet and Tier 2 puppet. Wow. Wow. Should pay attention. It's the grays. See, they're called the grays for a reason because they got gray skin. And the Rothschild do have bug eyes like aliens. But they're not. There's no one in the box like an alien or even a skilled robot. So there's no one inside the toaster. There's no toast in the toaster. So anyways, so like the grays are the ones hosting the video that are guiding me through the communication, with the possible Pinocchio, but in my research, this person might be a gray themselves. Although it did like YouTube force me to research one of these people's backgrounds. Like it gave me an ad about people's backgrounds because I looked up a person's band and it brings up a free search on who the person's background is. But anyways, this was someone close to them. This wasn't that person. Anyways, that was another odd thing. So, yeah. Anyways, this other person, the grays were in here in my earpiece on a live conference and describing me through the interaction with the new Pinocchio, with the Tier 2 grays. And we were having a conversation there. And the conversation was like, blah, 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 blah. How come people don't know? Why do I have to explain that? I'm like, what do you do? Like, I don't care about their work. I'm like, who are you? I'm not like, oh, what do you do at McDonald's? I'm like, who are you? What do you do with your life? And most people are like, where do you work? Because they want to know your money. They want to know your finances. Salesmen, especially. You meet a salesman who starts with something like that, you met a salesman who's been working that job for a while because they figured out how to socialize to get the foot in the door to make a sale to begin with, rather than give the illusion they might be a pushy person pushing off junk. So hold on. Okay, so the gray skinned people are in my ear in a conference, and it's pretty much just guiding me through the interaction. Because I'm not talking to the person, and it's telling me, in parables, if you don't, accept the light when it comes to you, because if you refuse the light, then you can't receive these gifts we bring, the gifts the world is offering you. Exactly what you're going to hear if you ever been to one of those manifesting videos. We got one scheduled right here, don't we? We got a new one. Look at that. Imagine that. Live momentous. What is gaslighting? Look at that. That's what comes up. So this is why we have to sort out the reality of what's going on from the grays and Pinocchios. So anyway, they're guiding me through the interaction with this person. And this person has the same voice print. They claim, I'm like, what do you do? And I'm like, who are you? What are your talents and hobbies? A person who asks where you work is after something else. They're after your money. The average person, that discussion's not going to go very far. Where do you work? Well, I remember when I worked at Myers stocking shells. Great story, great discussion we're going to have there. Nothing to talk about there unless you want to talk about the acid trip and how being honest with your manager actually leads to your manager liking you instead of making up lies and excuses. Just being like, yeah, I don't want to come in. That's it. Don't feel like coming in today. And the manager's like now we're best friends. He's like, wow, that's the first employee I've ever met, I think, who's been honest like that with me. And so end up knowing him later at different Myers and stuff too, and we're friends pretty much. And no, I don't work very long there, and that was kind of some of the last days because I'm like, yeah, I don't really feel like coming in. My friends quit and everything, so it was just me. And besides, I didn't feel like I was performing well enough at the job, but they needed people, and I told them. I was like, yeah, I'm not performing well at that job. Like, I do good at the stuff I do good at, and I'm not performing well at stocking baby food jars and or lining their labels. Something about it, everyone else there was better at that than me. Might be a different reason these days. It's like 10,000 baby food jars a day was a hell of a lot of work, and I would never get my aisle done. And it's like, now we're not going to work the only job in the world that I am the worst employee at. That's not what we do. I told him that, and then we're like best friends after that. It's like, wow, most honest employee I've ever met, probably. Anyway, so I'm asking this person, what do you do? What are your hobbies? Like, I don't go, what do you do? When I meet someone, I've tailored it more to, what are your hobbies? What are your talents? What do you do with your life? Because I'm not interested in where you work, right? Um, that can be fun. My ex worked in Hollywood, so there's a lot to talk about there. We go hang out with people who make famous shows on MTV in their workspace where he's designing clay models, and the whole workspace is filled with Hollywood props and stuff, right? So that's interesting, but I don't necessarily bank that every conversation would lead to something like that. So it doesn't really make sense for me to approach someone and be like, how's the weather, or where do you work? So I'm going through the line here to see what the person does. And the person has a person says they play music. Now, again, with the clones, we don't know who they are because we have the Greys operating them and the clones appearing out of nowhere. And so but I've come to the point to realize that no one's even mentioning robots, and I'm having to use the word clone myself. And so no one's mentioning the Greys doing this stuff. So, I have to put it together when Geppetto brings a Pinocchio around me, like Pinocchio's its puppet, and Geppetto is an automated robot, um, claiming to be an alien that's hiding in space and manipulating the entire world. So, yeah, anyways, so these things are what bring us back to why do we think the world is 6,000 years old? Or why do we think the world is 20 billion years old? Because the clone I requested appears. Now, if that were a clone and not an alien, not one of the alien shapeshifters, then that character would have been created probably about a month before that when I wrote down that detailed list. Now, I'd asked for a similar clone before, not too hard, just a couple things there. It's like a list of 7 things, but like one thing I've never seen, and so that like changes the outcome of every clone, um, or person, or whatever. You can tell these are two different tiers because Pinocchio always has a Geppetto, like within like wireless transmission distance or something like that. Almost always, and almost all, and like the recent one to approach me identified like he has his Pinocchio bring me inside and say I'm with this person and point it out, even though we don't even go talk to that person, and that person is just like that thing is just like staring at the wall for like 30 minutes while we talk and not moving at all. um, we're at a place to eat, and I don't think it's eating or drinking. It might have been, but I don't. For the few seconds I paid attention, I didn't notice it moving at all. Um, anyway, so you have those things, and you have those things telling us about history and what's going on in the world. And they're not telling us these other things that they're actually doing. So, again, when someone talks to you about Santa Claus, that's a red flag. That's telling you this person will make up anything. And there might be a reason they make up something like that. Supposedly, Santa Claus is harmless, and it's to give candy to the kids so you can bring kids into a religion where we worship the Greys as God people, and we say everything on the planet is exactly the same, except for in those 4 lines where we say there are 4 different species upon the planet and not just one human. Then the Greys go on to create other religions that tell you everyone is exactly the same. But then, of course, Buddha's different, right? Et cetera, et cetera. You see how we get, once you sniff out that first lie from someone, it's very likely to lead to this is their personality type. This is not a mistake that they're lying about something. This is a personality type. The Pinocchio, the Greys book actually tells you that the Greys are people who can never tell a truth. Their book tells you that, even. I'm not saying it's filled with truth, but it definitely has some things in there that make a lot of sense, like 4 different species upon the planet that look like humans. And it says there used to be more than 4. It says some of them were made extinct. Um, so I I do believe I didn't quite reread that and do the math there, but I'm pretty sure there's a listing of 2 others there that they. And I'm not saying that's even factual. It could just be there's 3 classes: humans, Pinocchios, and Geppettos. There's no evidence from what I've seen that even the Pinocchios and the Geppettos are different, except for the societal, the caste system that they allow to exist, and then the other promotes as should exist. So, which makes sense. It's like the ones promoting, yay, I'm the winner, and the other one is promoting, yay, you're the winner. And it really looks like 2 separate people there, like the McDonald's worker who gets mad that I said, can you please make sure the cheese is on my burger, the extra cheese on my burger, before you make it. Uh, I'm not asking them to look through the bag and make sure it's in there or anything. I'm pretty sure, but they go berserk. And then the owner of of Domino's, I call him up and I say, hey, you know what? Your stuff tastes like wet dog, but you say you changed it. Uh, I don't want to pay to. I don't want to pay to try it. Is there anything you can do about that? And he's like, yeah, sure. We'll send you out 4 free pizza coupons. And so, two different personality types right there. And so, anyways, that whole thing, that whole discussion of history and how things are being created, or what is actually going on the planet, we can't say for sure how things are being created because we interact with the Greys and the Pinocchios. What we can say for sure is that there's lies. Right. The thing that appears, this magic, the being that appears magically in my life after I ask for it has the same voice as the person who by name I asked for a similar replica of, just because it's the base of the one person who I met who is like that. Um, Comes with the same voice print, sounds like the same exact person, but it's a little bit different. I think it's probably like a college campus kid type person, so we probably wouldn't be compatible because it's missing the thing that matters um, the most. The whole point of asking for a replica of this other person is because of what the music they listen to. For the same reason, too, she dates a pretty famous musician. Like, I don't think they're married, but they've been together a long time, longer than many married people have. And that's what she does with her time is go to his concerts, listen to that type of music, listens to him and his pals record music, and then whatever she does with her life. But you have that you have that support structure right there of a person who you would want to be around and wants to be around you too, and isn't just a cum rag that fails to provide clean itself out and even be a rag that can absorb any more cum. So that's why I asked for that person, but it felt like that new person just came with the same voice print and looked like the same person as well. It felt like the story was going to end up being that they were a poser. Well, they hadn't quite said they listened to good music yet, but it felt like it was going to lead to where they didn't listen to good music and they just said they played an instrument, and whether they did or not, they probably played like Primus or Backstreet Boys or some, I don't know, some Backstreet music is listenable, is it? I would, yeah, I'm sure it is. It gets pounded in your head at the store so much. It's hard not to be like, oh yeah, I know that song. That's amazing. Because it's like, we're the Backstreet Boys, buy our record, buy the groceries on the shelf. Bye bye bye, happy, happy Backstreet. So happy, bye bye bye, at the grocery store, bye bye bye. It's that hip, upbeat music there with the message, with the positive message. Like, you might be homeless, but you got some Backstreet Boys CDs. Life couldn't be better. Bye bye bye, Backstreet. Bye bye bye. Bye bye. Bye, Backstreet Boys CDs. You know, that's shopping music. It gets you eventually, don't it? That's how I can do that. That bye bye bye. Wow, it's weird how shit goes together in time to the point where the only time I sing that song is bye bye bye. And I'm telling you, at the signs at the store that say buy it now before it's gone, and happy, hope, love, peace, buy it, feel great and positive, and the music that they're playing along with it is there for exactly the reason it looks like the sign might be there to make you buy stuff and lullaby your brain, lullaby, bye bye. Everything in the stove, and the grays. They are in my ear and they want me to bye. The poser Pinocchio, they is forcing in my life, and I want them to go bye. But, 'cause we ain't buying. Pinocchio and Geppetto. Bye. Motherfucking needle and some thread. And then go, ooh. What did you say? I can't hear it, Backstreet Boy. What'd you say? Ooh. The thread's not strong enough. You need me to put some more in it. Oh, the thread's expensive. You gonna go buy me some, Backstreet Boys? I can't hear you. Oh my God, I can't hear the bye music when I'm at the stove. How am I gonna know to bye? Oh my God, Pinocchio. What is wrong, Pinocchio? You can't talk anymore. Has the Lion of Zion got your tongue? So do you buy history? Do you buy their stories? Do you think any of their stories are real? Do you think the 2 dates they propose as Earth's history are real at all? If the majority of the stuff that's coming out of their mouth, if it's not sewed shut, or even if it is, if you can understand the mumbles, is about buy. What do you think? See, to me, I'm a toddler, and I just hear one sentence, and this is minus the clone writing down the clone and the shapeshifter appearing in that clone form, exactly where I'm living, and exactly walking right beside me. Working exactly at the store across the street. And then the original coming into play that I met 30 years ago when the one's there. That adds more weight to why we should question what his story is, because how old is his story? Because it doesn't seem like, if that were a real person and not a shapeshifter, it would be trying to give me the illusion that I'm inventing that person. And I don't listen to Backstreet Boys, so the bye song doesn't. It's just not echoing in my head. I'm not constantly being like, I gotta bye. I gotta bye. But if you listen to that, that's what you go around doing when you're in the store. You see stuff on the shelf and you're like, bye. You're telling yourself, bye. And then when someone walks you up on the street and they got some crack to sell you that's actually baking soda, some real expensive fine Peruvian cocaine, but it's really salt, and it's only $250 for the whole 8-ball. And what you're singing that song, you're like, bye. I gotta bye. And you're not thinking because the music's playing and you're getting into the groove. The music is controlling. Let the music move you. You're like, bye. And you're like, here, take $240. I'm sure that's not salt. That's the best in the world. And they're like, yeah, see you later. Don't forget to buy that new Backstreet Boy album when it comes out. It's got the new message, sucker, which I ain't gonna release, because then you'd be walking around the store looking at shit and you wouldn't buy anything, because every time you did, you'd be like, sucker. You'd be like, oh shit, who's the sucker here? Instead, it's got to be bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye. That's why all the music is all about buying some shit. Even if it's not Backstreet Boys. If it's the satanic heavy metal, it's about buying that a lot of it's like you're a loser. They're not a loser because they're rich. And then some of that satanic heavy metal, the lyrics like Annihilator is like, oh, we're trapping you in the world and we're making fun of you and we're insulting you and enslaving you. That's a fun game and you're an idiot and not going to be able to do anything about it. And then so you're going around, you're like, I'm an idiot. I'm not going to be able to do anything about it and they're enslaving me. And then the good music is like, bye, bye, bye. Or like, I worship them as my God. I worship the Greys as my God. Pinocchio's race is my God. Pinocchio's master is my God. So you got no choice. The Satanists are telling you to bye, 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 the gray religion. And the other people are telling you to bye, bye, literally telling you. See, they're telling you in a different way over here. You're listening, the good music has like the worst messages sometimes because it's like a buy thing. They're trying to herd the cattle into buying their bullshit. And that's how it works. I noticed, like, I had this special ability to not hear lyrics the first 40 years of my life until 2020 event hit. And then magically now I hear lyrics and it's like, ooh, I don't want to fucking listen to that. But then you listen to other stuff and it sounds like Jeffrey Epstein, like begging for you to let him wash your feet. Or telling you to go read stories, telling you how great people who want to wash your feet are. So you're trash, you are trash. You are trash. And the good fucking music. And then the other music is like, I'm not trash. Let me lick your feet. Because trash don't lick feet. Because we're not trash. Good people lick feet. And you're like, yeah, I hate that stuff making fun of me. But I love them. It's better if I just let them lick my feet. Oh no, they want me to lick their feet. Oh, I'm getting it wrong. They want both. Oh, they want both. It's a confusing message because people be like talking to me like I'm supposed to be the man. I'm supposed to be God. So I'm supposed to wash their feet. But when you meet these people in real life, they want you to beat them and they want you to let them lick your feet. Now they act like real tough people, but that's the way fetishes and kinksters work. It's like my ex. My ex like went around the world and people fell to their knees when she entered the room and everyone was obsessed with her. But I was just like, okay. I was like, I'm getting real tired of these people acting this way. That's some real cuck shit. And she's like, yeah, I know. That's fucking disgusting, ain't it? But it's how we live. This is life and shit. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. You don't have to explain that to me. Fucking, you wouldn't have any fucking money if you didn't look like fucking queen of the fucking planet and people weren't just throwing fucking everything in the world at you and shit. Oh my, fucking amazing. Amazing. So bye. There's some weird shit happening, dude. This is, wow. That's why I'm so wasting time making these videos, because every time I do, we're coming more to a conclusion and solidification of an inevitable outcome and discovery of what's really happening here, where just the amount of evidence provided is just so much that all Pinocchio and Geppetto are going to have is just this 24/7 wave of hot air that they already know they have to produce continually in order to sustain the illusion. That's why they've invested so heavily into the 24/7 hot air streams. So, see, that's weird. You guys might not know it. I don't know what the robots know behind closed doors. But behind closed doors, people are trying to tell me I'm God. And they're not smart enough to realize Jesus died when he was 33. And old God, there's no written record of him existing before 33. And the words old can mean old person, and the word new can mean young child. There's a lot of things that just contributes to the fortification that a lot of this is just hot air. And they either understand nothing, or they are extremely freaking hostile, or both. And they use the wall of sound to be hostile, the wall of hot air to be hostile, which obviously, we get these updates. We're born where we know psychology, and the first time someone talks about flying reindeer, we know, yeah, well, it's time to find some new family members, isn't it? Because we don't do that type of shit to our family. We don't do that to strangers. We don't treat strangers with such disrespect. But we definitely don't have sex with and have children with people talking about Bigfoot all the time if they've got no evidence of Bigfoot existing. Because then you'll be like my dad, who has to sit there and just stare at the wall in silence when I'm asking, what happened? What made you get with that person? Because there is no answer other than my dick got hard or I was drunk, which is probably the answer, both of them. So you don't want to end up in that situation in life where your children are asking you, especially because what may be happening is the other person might be setting your child up as a weapon against you, or all your children, or everyone they fucking know. And then you might get treated real fucking bad. And your side of the story might actually help you out no matter how bad it is. But then you end up with this idea in your head that, what I did was really bad. I got drunk and I blacked out, and well, there you are. And that's like the best fucking story in the world compared to some other possibilities, like, well, there's this person with money and I like money, and well, I'm not going to tell you that, but yeah, well, everything, it's all everyone, it's all this other person's fault. Yeah, everything. Kill them, beat them, rob them. I know it's your parent. I know it's your father. We must torture him. Don't kill him, because then I won't get my money, and you won't get the hand-me-down clothes from your brother that I buy for him when he outgrows them. Whew, but yeah, there you go. Life lessons learned. Keep your dick in your pants, or better yet, learn where baby comes from, and learn that even if you take your dick out, things might be happening. And also learn that we got the Greys setting your life up to destroy it, along with some clones upon the planet. That's a very good thing. I wonder what my dad would have done if he knew he worked for the Freemasons and the Epsteins. Maybe he already knew he did that. maybe that was part of the silence that came from him. Was I mean, he talked about how great it was, and you know, it looked pretty great too. Uh, but from what I see, what could have happened is the Greys brought this Pinocchio along, who might have been a Grey themselves, and that might have caused all that stuff in his life. And see where that leads. He's working for Epstein and the Masons, and then the Masons are said the Epstein Masons Greys are setting his life up to be with trash just to target him and destroy him, possibly. They definitely separate, and then that person pits them against Jeffrey Epstein. Might be setting people up to destroy his own slaves if his own slaves are advancing too far. That does seem to be a highly probable thing, because we have this whole situation that is playing out like NPC in a video game, playing out roles upon this planet. And I seem to be having a problem killing myself to escape it, like I'm immortal. And I also seem to have a problem not being involved, no matter how much I don't participate at all. From my point of view, you guys are keeping the whole slavery thing alive by working at all. And as far as I can tell, the buildings will build themselves, and the food will create itself. Unless there's something else happening there. But I get the idea that stuff is all auto-generated. And then that brings me back to another thing they convinced my dad to do: recycling. So you're building pyramids. You're just moving dirt. You're playing with sand castles and shit. If I'm correct on that part of it, then that's just playing with sand castles and wasting your time so Epstein and Musk and Trump can get rich, and Biden. See, there's a lot of shit going on here, and I just happen to get into all of it. I just happen to be involved in it. And they just happen to be trying to convince me of some shit in some real fishy type of ways, but it's real close to what might actually be happening. But the thing is, here is when you got the baby in the bathwater, oh, babies aren't real, water isn't real. What do you actually have that you need to throw out of that equation in order to study it and find out what the importance of the baby in the bathwater is? You know, that's what a lot of these things turn into. Pretty much all my conversations these days are people forcing their way into my life to talk about some sort of update to an agenda going on. And maybe it's always been this way. And so I don't even pay attention to whatever they're saying. I'm usually studying their tone, their cadence, their grammar level, what if they've been to college, if they're a professional writer, et cetera, and the people around them, because this is very important. The other day I go in there and Pinocchio has a Grey, and Pinocchio points out that he's with one of the Greys. And Pinocchio doesn't have to do that. I keep telling you that over and over. Pinocchio or the Greys don't have to do these things they're doing, because it gives them away. What is that happened in Pinocchio's story that made it so every time they came home to their creator that they knew they were lying? Well, Pinocchio's nose gets big, but that's Geppetto's job to get a big nose, isn't it? Everyone knows that. And so that's not even a deciding factor, because people don't actually grow those Pinocchio noses. Now there's a huge argument. Pinocchio and Geppetto worked together to convince me that people with big noses are the only liars on the planet. But there's something more telling in all these conversations than a big nose, and it's involved in the dialogue. It's involved in the speech cadence. It's involved in the the level of grammar they use. It's not as easy as like, oh my God, that person's nose sticks out to here. That would be nice, because then you would have that much distance, physical distance, and you could safely say words that might offend a psychopath. If you have a 4 foot long nose that grows each time they speak, eventually you'd have 6 million foot of social distancing from them. It's not quite that easy to spot, but yet it is, because I'm like 6 when I understand this about what is that, a Rudolph, the flying, invisible, glow-in-the-dark reindeer, and the fat person who does more work in one night than anyone on the entire planet. And then you have the Greys promoting that flying invisible reindeer exists in this religion called science they have, which is supposedly the study and understanding of all living things. And it's a fact and point. Now, science would have to be a required hot air to convince living beings they are trying to enslave that everything on this planet is living. And there is no clones, and there is no robots on the planet. But Geppetto and Pinocchio, they love to lie. And for some reason, they give away tells. Their nose doesn't grow, but they tell me when they go to Mars, they ask Santa Claus for help to build the rockets to go to Mars. And that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And if you haven't passed science and math with good grades, let me be the first to tell you that you're not going to become a rocket scientist if you're asking Santa Claus how to design rockets. Because what's happening is you're frying. You took acid at some point in time, and you have never stopped seeing the swirly colors. You know, everyone loves their acid because it just like it's melting your brain and the swirly colors and shit. And you see the DMT rabbit gods. And I shouldn't insult that. I haven't done that yet. But I do not recommend you touch any of that shit, because I don't know you. I don't know what level you're at. And it's not a good idea to recommend that shit to strangers. Like, people who know that recommend fucking. Anyway, so when NASA talks about flying reindeers, I think it's one of those tells where the Greys might not be in control of their self. Other than that, they're doing the thing like heavy metal does, where they create lyrics, bragging that they're fucking alien slime enslaving the living. But it really does seem to be, at the end of the day, that they're no different than Tier 2. I personally think they're more disgusting. Now, they're in the higher positions and they own everything on the planet. They have all the money, they own all the businesses, they create all the religions. You know, they benefit from it, from being Tier 1. But they don't seem too much different. Like, some of them are smarter, but it's like, in some ways at least, it's like, well, that's what happens when you have 6,000 years of being carried through the desert on your golden throne. You could take some time to read a book or two and educate yourself. You know, when you're telling slaves to build pyramids, you know, obviously the scribes are going to have to know how to stack bricks together to tell the slaves to stack bricks. The masons, that's what a mason is, a bricklayer, is going to have to know those things in order to teach someone else how to do it. Or you're going to have the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But, yeah, wow. That is crazy. So this is why I could add probably more to this, but at the end of the day, it's this one interaction why I question history. Now, in 2020, as soon as that stuff rolled off, that was the end of everything. It was like being a newborn baby. The only thing I knew was that everything I was feeling before and the little nudges I got were dead on, and they meant. That's when anything else I learned that wasn't these little nudges that I'm always like, why the hell do I know that? Why do I think those? Why do I think those thoughts? Why do I? Why do I have these specific useless memories? And then 2020, mid 2020 hit, and it's like, wow, it's because they're all pointing at this, which is me questioning history and how old the earth is. That's just one of what, like 7 things. Kind of useless. It's kind of useless compared to the other 6 things, the 5 things, the 3 things of value, the 1 thing that would decimate and lay waste to everything else, the 3 things that would describe it and lay it out, and the 5 things that would add the supporting evidence to solidify, and then the 7 things would be, well, we figured Earth out, these 7 questions. But I think the 1 does it on its own. So, this is why I question what history is. Oh, yeah, also, back to the AI generation thing, and how that stuff can be invented. Like, all you got to do to invent a picture of World War II soldiers is one more step. When you have AI generate you a picture, you say, generate me some people from 1940s, and then you say in black and white, and magically you now can do that. You yourself can go do that. You yourself can go do that. So, and well, the Masons worship something called AI, don't they? Isn't that their god, AI? I know, but I swear, it seems like the Masons be trying to get me to say I'm God or something. In the back alley. You haven't heard of this on TV yet, apparently. I don't. Maybe I was on TV and I didn't know. I was hidden camera or something. But it's weird when they send a Pinocchio, or when the Greys talk to me about it in person. They're trying to prompt me to say, I am God. They're trying to. They won't use the word God, like it's going to kill them or something, or it's a requirement for me to deceive myself. It's one of the two. Either it's going to kill them if they say God's name. It could maybe something they've done, and then their belief in it, once they solidify it, maybe they've seen their people drop off. Because there is some weird shit that happens, and I don't know how that happens, but sometimes people drop off. I was just thinking of that earlier. Like, there's this person who I thought was, friendly. I mean, he was real friendly as a guy. I mean, he liked me, and he was into metal, so it was cool because, we're into metal, brothers in metal, and yeah, that's like a family. For those of you not into it, once you're into metal, it's a family. It's like being in the Crips or something. Rappers always talking about being in the Crips and shit like that. It's a family. You see the other person wearing their flag, and like, what's up, dude? You already know the person. And then that person dropped off, but they made me uncomfortable, and it's like, did it just drop that person out because they made me uncomfortable? I'm pretty sure I wasn't like purposefully being like, oh, I'll kill the motherfucker, because it was just uncomfortable to be hit on by him so much. But I didn't like seriously like despise him as a person or anything. But he dropped off and shit. So in 2020, when people were talking to me about stuff going on, they they like dance around it, you know. And look at what the Greys do. The Greys say they can't name God. The Greys say they don't know his name, and then they call it G space D, so they don't even say the word God, right? And they were doing that to me. One of the Greys and one of the Pinocchios were doing that to me in 2020. And it was real weird, because it's like, why are you like, you're leaving a word out of your sentence? What's wrong with you? What does your dialogue actually mean? That means, to me, that means all their dialogue is false, and I shouldn't listen to any of it, because there's some sort of manipulation here. They're literally purposely leaving a word out, and it's making an incomplete sentence, and they know they're doing this. And so there would be a purpose here for this to be happening. And yeah. So, and then they might be causing, you know, through their actions, it appears they sometimes cause their own problems. So that could cause a lot of problems, you know, going around and playing games with people like that. But also at the same time, if that's what you're just doing is playing games, then it would be all or nothing anyways, right? If that's all this world's about, is people playing games. You better go hard or go home, right? Stick with the plan, stick with the formula. And the formula they've provided, there's a lot of holes in it there. Like that, and like when the clones or shapeshifters appear. I mean, it seems like it's set up to purposely appear with a message, and not to, you know, me. It's like I asked for a bag of money to appear, and then it sends brown-skinned, half African Rothschild across the street with a bag of money that he has for himself, right? So you ask for the bag of money to appear, the Rothschild alien shapeshifters appear across the street with their own bag of money, playing drums. And as someone you might be listening to right now is known to do, and that's across the street from the place they poisoned me and railroaded me out of, and then had the news reporter had one of the clones assault me down there, because I asked him, beside his it was a cameraman, because they're Geppetto is always in the background operating the puppets. The puppets in the background operating the puppets. And the robots in the background operating the puppet. And so if that person was a puppet, I don't know about that person, but I know the one who assaulted me right after I walked away from the conversation was his puppet. Now I was identifying, I was just asking, why does your media constantly attack these Asian people, which was the news reporter, and cause all these wars and stuff? And so because of that, he has one of his Pinocchios assault me right down the street and shit. And then they poison me and try to kick me out. I know they poisoned me because the powder's in the champagne glass. And then the next morning they kick me out of the place I'm staying and make up some shit. And then they have the third Trump clone I know, previously inserted in my life to bring people into my life, like the original of this other person I'm asking for a clone of. That would be the second person they brought into my life. That the Trump clone brought into my life. Now the Trump clone is there to appear as if my friend, and it's going to help me get away from its fellow the Grays with the black hair instead of the Rothschild with the blonde hair that the Trumps are. Because Trump's children, for some reason, don't have blonde hair, and Trump didn't either. He has a wig now. That was the missing link there in their Hitler story. Is they killed all the blonde hair, blue eyed people, and weren't blonde hair, blue eyed people at the top there. That just makes the whole story fall apart. It always only takes one little thing to bash through their lies, like Santa Claus. But then they've got endless. Pinocchio has endless. This is the story of Pinocchio, is it not? They have endless stories of what they're up to, and it's never what they're saying. But Geppetto knows, because the nose is growing bigger. There's an obvious sign. Pinocchio can lie in that, but here apparently Pinocchio can't make up a good lie, and that's where the telling comes from. That's where the nose growing comes from. Although Geppetto does end up with a big nose, right? The telling comes from understanding grammar in English or whatever language someone's speaking. Or if I'm in a different country, the telling comes when a person does speak English, because instantly you're like, oh, you're not from around here, are you? So the telling remains English even when I go to other nations. The telling is still sometimes in the English format. That's the most telling thing. When I left and things were happening around me, it's like, wow, these people with English are magically finding me out, huh? They're gravitating towards me. I guess that kind of makes sense. I don't necessarily look very Mexican every day of the week, but the direction, the guidance. I mean, that's weird how, we have this story where those events happen. They have their the Greys, the Greys with the gray skin, gray hair, a little bit different. I would assume they're the same people. The Rothschild with the blonde and the Greys with the gray. All the other colored people with the Rothschild alien eyes. They have the clone attack me, and then they poison me. It was probably was it the same night? I was there for a couple weeks at least. And then, they attack me, and then for asking a question, and then that exposes them, and then they poison me, and then I don't actually take in most of the poison because they don't mix it well. Professional killers working for something above the military should definitely understand how to mix chemicals. And the silver bullet, the nuclear missiles they have, they can build the nuclear missile to mix to have the primer to trigger the mixture of the chemicals to make the nuclear blast go off, or you just wasted $50 million or something, $500 million. So you don't do that. You know what I'm saying? You don't fill the Army's sniper rifles with faulty shells. You have someone double check those shells, and you have a professional sniper delivering the bullet. So it's magically not mixed in, so it doesn't fuck me up. And then They talked to me like I did something that night I don't remember, but I didn't ingest their poison. So I didn't black out or get. Well, my heart has been acting up since the time they sent the Donald Trump worker from Hollywood into my life. Like, right? Um, so that was the first time my heart started acting up and shit. When I woke up next to her, and I got that update in my brain, like, oh shit, I just been poisoned. Fucking, that's pretty intense. I was like sweating and fucking, my brain was like frying, and my hormone regulation was out, and I was just like, yeah, maybe it was because I'm on new medicine from the doctor, but no. I woke up, next to the Donald Trump employee who works with Hollywood and the Greys, has the Greys on call, and has a security guard to protect her at all times. And it feels like the security guard is actually there to protect her from me, as if she's going to cause some sort of problem that I would want to solve with violence. Like try to kill me. There are people. Oh yeah, she knew. She knew too that her people had came to try to kill me before, and they killed themselves in the process. She knew that. Like she knew my background. So I was like, oh well, this is definitely a gray agent, right? Because it works with them, and in Hollywood, it works with Donald Trump. It's trying to bring me in to meet Donald Trump. It's giving me gifts from Donald Trump. It knows my background. It's ran a background check on me, like an agent would, right? And so it knows that, and their people probably discuss this in their circle, right? Their people probably discuss like, wow, well, we tried to kill this dude a lot, and we end up dying every time we try that, or most of the times, many times. And I imagine, looking at it from the outside that it's probably like, I mean, that's the only hope I hold on to these days is like, yeah, like I'm just kind of waiting. I'm expecting the next chapter in the story to be another dumb move by them, and it be the final dumb move to happen in any of our stories. I kind of assume, we're working our way up here. That night that morning I woke up with a heart pain, and kind of like, if I have been being poisoned since I was 8, then this is at the very least, I think it's here to provoke me into not caring anymore, to realizing what's happening here. The odd thing is when we're talking about that, we're going back to when I'm 8, when my mom, a Smith, starts drugging me with the schools who are trying to set me back grades. And she's also working with them too, but it's at a distance that looks different. But she's involved in the drugging me and shit, poisoning me, fucking when I'm young. So I'm assuming that, the Pinocchio, that's where I can link in that my dad, in the story they've set up, because they've written it in their Bible, they do this stuff, that my dad might have been targeted by them because he was superior to them, and they crushed the heads of the best snakes in order to make sure their people can remain the scum at the top of the dairy mixture that floats to the top. It's hard to, some liquids will, weigh less than something floating like air itself, or a chemical gas that could be more potent than scum. Oh, I don't. I mean, shit. Listen to how much I know of what's going on here. Like, I don't think most of this is me. You have their people trying to set something up, and you have me having the ability to decipher it, but I'm born with math and reading. It's not everything in the world. I just pick up a math book and I know 20 years of math after reading 2, 3 math books. That doesn't happen with everything. So some things it does. Some things I can pick up fast, but it's just not. I don't have time to do a lot of other shit 'cause I'm more dialed in on what I do to just make it better. To just, be better than me. Be better than the best, whoever that is at the time. You got a whole industry here promoting the idea that you shouldn't be better. You should get drugged. You should fry yourself. You shouldn't do any work. Like Pinocchio and Geppetto over here the other day in the I should wash their feet story, which with their people, you know them personally, that they want to wash your feet because that puts their head 2 feet away from your genitals, and that's where paradise is for them. So, that's why people pay women to touch their feet, because even they know have no chance in hell with someone. They will get as close as they can. Anyways, shit, bro. Oh, this is fucked up. I can't believe I'm gonna have to go through another day with this. Well, this is fucked up. Now I fucked up. See, I should stop making these videos. But there's a slim chance in hell everything I'm saying is the third Bible. But I kind of get the idea they have 1,000 religions because it's the Greys inventing bullshit to manipulate the living. It's very close. You notice, Pinocchio, the story of Pinocchio is right there. Is it a religion? No, but it's there. So maybe the fact it's a religion and much of the slop in it is just the same as the story of Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a religion, isn't it? Isn't it about a person? It's about a person creating a person who is creating persons. It's the story of a writer who is creating a story about a person who creates people. So there's 3 tiers there. There's the person creating and that story is telling you. So it is very, very religion-like, right? He is creating a new human, and he calls it Pinocchio. And that's the same thing the Bible says the Greys are doing. That's the same thing Bible says Geppetto's doing, as he's trying to recreate the humans, and it says he's going to get fucked up for it too. And that's where the whole that's like where the whole thing goes. It's the whole story of the Bible. So they always want to yap at you about licking their feet and shit, and this and that, and Jesus is a blood sacrifice who just stood there and let people kill him, so in the future they can understand what he's saying. And then they ignore the majority of the rest of it. They specifically ignore the parts where it says most of them are lying. Like it says most of the people with this book will be lying. It specifically says that. It says there'll be false prophets and stuff, right? And among other things. It says that several times in several different ways. It uses the term false prophets, etc. And it just says people with the book, and that's what pisses the person creating these people off, as they're recreating themselves to fuck everything up. in control. It doesn't specifically say they're creating a story to enslave God. I don't think so. Maybe I should read it one day. I've never read it. I've only been to school or, yeah, Sunday school and church camp and outings with the church people and hung out with the pastor and their families at their houses and then hung out with them at their real houses because if you've been to church, the pastor has a house right beside the church. So he's always at the church if you need him. And then some pastors have their own real family house somewhere else on top of the house beside the church. So if you ever been to church, I've been there. And if you don't know that, and you have been there, then well, look it up. You'll know I've been there more than you. But I've never actually sat down and read the whole book. I read Psalms, right? A lot of this stuff, like sometimes it's like my life. It's weird how but you could easily, you see how this clone's being intersected with my life. If you can do that, you can send a clone of someone in my pathway and who has great acting skills and set up a, a seminar in my ear at the same time that's happening to guide me through it. And you could easily set up something else, right? And lots of things are below that on the level of what you can create on this planet. So, anyways, what I do know is that parable means parable too. So I don't. When people are all forceful with stuff, automatically I assume that what I'm being shown is that this person's intent is not good. Because you don't need to go force stuff on people. If I don't like you or what you're doing, I don't have to go around you. Unless you're seriously in my life causing some real problems, and then I would want to solve the problem. I wouldn't beat around the bush about it for 30 minutes. I would just be like, well, it's time to solve this problem. What do you suggest we do about it? Problem solved or bigger problem created instantly problem solved. Instantly we discover the real problem below the problem that's festering, and we hadn't figured it out yet that it was there. So again, to me, this is more the big nose growing parable, where it seems like I'm being shown things through actions, and I'm being shown intent through grammar and actions that I'm supposed to pay attention to. But of course, what I'm constantly being told I'm supposed to pay attention to is that the threats on my life and the threats of me being tortured are real. That doesn't seem like a huge issue there, my father on earth, like, it talked shit to him all the time because I was taught to, and I had no respect for him. I didn't display respect for him. I had all the respect in the world for him, but I didn't display respect for him, and it might have been because someone else needed that treatment, and it just came out around the next person. That happens a lot in my life. And it might have been because that person trained me to hate that person. That Esther might have trained me to hate that person. Which, I don't know. I don't think it was. I think it was because that's how I wanted to treat Esther. And that's how Esther deserved. That's a mirror reflection. Like, the mirror reflects. It takes a minute for the mirror to reflect back sometimes. I think that's all it was. But I didn't have any respect because by that time, I'd been drugged, I'd been passed back 4 grades, I've been held back to be slave cast the whole current life I had. And I was being set up in this delusional Santa Claus shit going on here. So the obvious response here is, ooh, I'm a cool rebel, and I ain't doing nothing. I ain't listening to you at all. Because that becomes an obvious thing. I'm at school wasting my life, going nowhere. I already know everything. Why am I there? It's time to stop listening to those people. They're talking about bombing the Middle East, and collecting donation from 8-year-old boys and girls to uh, save the earth. Say recycle cans to support the military. Save the earth. I think we're being taught a story there too. Is the save the earth people are the government, and the government are also the people who need money to buy bombs and rockets. And NASA is also the government, and NASA also needs money to buy rockets. And who invented their nuclear missiles? That's right, NASA scientist Jeffrey Einstein, formerly known as whatever Einstein's first name was, but now he's Jeff. So you don't even get Alberto Einstein. The scientist formerly known as Alberta Einstein, now known as Jeffrey Einstein. Yeah, interesting there. They're taking money to recycle the earth. I think I was being shown something in that and then my dad's involved with that. Someone's teaching him to do that stuff. He's like a pioneer in that recycling shit. Although he comes from the country, so they do that shit in the country. And then they're taking money they're having the kids recycle to get money or to bring in money. You can just bring in money, I'm assuming. And I wasn't allowed to have my own money, so I couldn't bring in money if I would have wanted to. And so I think they're showing some there that Save the Earth Foundation is linked to the military destroying the Earth Foundation. Yeah, and it's being used to brainwash kids. I, it just happened to tie it all together, huh? So, yep, here we have this this story time of Pinocchio and Geppetto. Story time, otherwise known as life. Pinocchio and Geppetto. Pinocchio's always got Geppetto beside him. Like he's a robot who needs someone within 6 meters of him to wirelessly control him or something. And Geppetto himself seems like an NPC in many cases. Is not aware that if they were living beings, they are doing all the work on the planet. They are, although the one I know told me, for some reason, Pinocchio tells me that he doesn't actually work his job and he outsources his government work to China. I have no idea why he told me that, but um, it, he's the one who brought one of the original, the clone I'm discussing in the book from this one specific time in 2022. That brings me to realizing history isn't real and it's being fabricated. That the original there, when I was around that person, he told me that, and then he also pointed out that the Mexicans over there were doing real cheap labor building the roofs, and then he also pointed out that like it was a good thing, and then he brought that clone though. He also pointed out I could ask China to make me anything I want if I just contact their factories. Anyway, so yeah, these are like little things I'm forced to remember here. He also loved the Howard Stern dude, who's anti-Middle Easterner. So he likes the Mexican labor, and he likes outsourcing his jobs to China, and he likes getting goods from China, but he doesn't like brown people living in the Middle East. Um, I can't help but think I'm being like, and he does, like Howard Stern's more than, hey, that's rarely even known for killing brown people in the Middle East. That's more for like prostituting people, which he also brought up. The woman we were involved with, different times, was one of the Hollywood prostitutes with cancer. And he's also the clone of Trump, which is the clone of the person who played along with the other people poisoning me, assaulting me, and putting um, putting poison in my drink, kicking me out of where I was staying. See, all this stuff comes together in a simple 2 hour story almost of what's going on this planet. Probably a 5 minute discussion. But for me, it's like a 20-hour story or something. We've been here like 45 years having to read the same story over and over and listen to it, have it shoved down our throat like by gay rapists sometimes and shit. Fucking, we're a huge Howard Stern thing, ain't it? Sometimes I wonder if the reason I didn't come to Earth is to investigate the people I'm around. Because if I'm different than them, why would I choose? I wouldn't choose. Um, Maybe some of the men, maybe a couple of the people who are long term, but it seems more like a discovery and an understanding where like a visual novel or a game where the characters you talk to are telling you what's happening here. It's so weird, but they're not telling me. They're telling me 100 million other things are happening. They're telling me two or five or seven other things are happening, and they relabel it 100,000 different names, and then they tell me, "Oh, that new name is completely different. If you didn't like the old group, the new group is so different, and you should spend 20 years of your life figuring out that it's the same thing." And I'm just going to sit here and talk over you while you tell me you've already looked into all the next 100 groups I'm going to name, and you've already figured it out. It's very similar, and you aren't as interested in it as they are. Um, Again, Pinocchio here. He's just making these stories up. And you see my stories. My story's not only consistent, but I'm every little thing in my life, not making it up, is adding solid, concrete evidence to support the simple one or two sentences I started talking about 10, 20 years ago. I was a little bit misled at first, right? There's like the truth movement, and they're talking about this and that. But I told you from the start, too, like, you shouldn't necessarily trust this because this and that involving those people. I think I told you that from the start. I went along with some of the shit they said, but I also said that too. I said I'm going to go along with this because the immersion is how I figure out, you know, what's happening. And then, I end up on the Pre-X website, and a lot of it's just instantly turns to anti-Africa, anti-India, as X did year two after Elon Musk came out. And it started as something different, then it turned to that. And I like that affected me. Even though I did the documentary on Daily Stormer, but that like affected me. And so by the end of month two, I had to stop going there and recording the website to keep a physical copy of it for the day it was eventually going to be erased, which it was. And I didn't really know that. I obtained a lot of information there that in those videos I made. There was a lot of information that I didn't know was going to be relevant, but it was accidentally captured as I was scrolling through the web pages and pointing out the other stories on the web page and stuff, or the other comments on the web page. So that was like kind of accidental for that to get caught up, but I stayed there for like 2 months, and that started to affect me too. So, I said that too. I said, like I'm done with that, because it's like I'm starting to say these words, and I know I'm just here to monitor it because it smells fishy. Um, so X did that again to me last year, so I had to cut that. I was going to cut X out of my router, but somehow the router they made magically appear at the store didn't have the ability to ban domains. So when those magical gifts appear out of nowhere, Geppetto's robot-like tendencies and ability to create new Pinocchios that he appears to have to be within 6 feet of or something to wirelessly operate futuristic tech like robots would be very close to futuristic tech like making things materialize or appear. However it's being done, we're wasting our time. We already figured all this out by 2020, but we were already talking about most of this before 2020. We were really missing that hardcore proof of everyone putting on their gang bandanas in 2020, which weirdly supports me. But then again, there's lots of things that weirdly support me, like people I seem to be investigating rather than I'm supposed to be friends with. I mean, there's definitely signs that some of these people aren't supposed to be my friends from the very first time I meet them. And then there's that thing in my head, well, if it must be, it must be. Because it gets beaten and drugged into you and nothing else appears. So it's weird. I also get the idea, like, am I here just to, like, investigate what's going on and put that together? It does seem to be what could have been a fun little time sink. Maybe. Not really. It was no, I've always been like, I can't wait for this to be over. I can't wait to meet someone I want to be around. Fucking not always, but I definitely remember thinking that, and I said that a lot too. I was like, we got to find out a way to convince this person they don't like me and want to get away from me, so they don't cause problems if I say I don't want to be around them. And some of them had threats and shit. Obviously, we got my family drugging me. We got Esther drugging me and shit when I'm a kid and shit like that. So as soon as I get old enough to feel like I'd be safe walking outside, because there are all these fear stories of pedophiles, and they generate probably one of their fellow robots right at the end of the street, right beside us. is a pedophile who comes out naked all the time and stuff. And so it like cements the fear that I shouldn't run away from the situation. And now that I'm older, I realize my mom might be related to that person. She might be the same species, factory model, bloodline, whatever it is, because, wow, it took fear campaign from the Hollywood prostitute with the cancer. Um, it took a fear campaign for them to convince me that I'll die and be raped in the outside world. And meanwhile, they're the ones performing child rituals on me for their religion. And they're the ones drugging children. And they're the ones holding children back. But I'm supposed to be scared of everyone else in the world. And then magically, to go along with the fear story, there's a pedo at the end of the street. And they never called the cops on him for like, I don't know, 10 years or something. No one cared. No one cared. Even though they talked about it all the time. And all the fruit of its labor was to provoke fear, because the fruit of its labor wasn't to apprehend the pedophile or to stop it. It was all the fruit that came from that tree was fear of escaping those people, which I did as soon as I felt I had the, I could go outside and fight for myself if I ended up out there alone. I did leave. The second I got old enough, I felt like I could fight them if they said no, and grab me by the neck and choke me out if I tried to leave. Oh, that's interesting. Every video, I'm linking it together more. This really sucks having to have the memory of this place. This makes it worse, fucking, the more, because I already remember too much. I already knew enough by 2020 to know that that's far more than enough of having to put up with this shit. Here we are still. Oh well. Oh, always great to have a reminder. Odin needs to continually try to hang himself from the Yggdrasil tree to see if he can actually die or not. Yeah, that's what that story means, isn't it? Does anyone know that? That's what that means. That's about me hanging myself and trying to kill myself. And how I know I'm intelligent enough already to know that you can't kill yourself by hanging, and those are fake robots being killed, because you have to create a gallows and drop a human to snap its neck in order to suffocate it, or to kill it, because you kill it by snapping the neck. You're most likely not going to suffocate from this. You might, but that's what gallows were invented, and they don't just wrap a rope around your neck and drag you a couple feet with it. Because, like Odin, you might not die. You might be hanging from a tree for 7 days and then just give up. Kind of get the idea. That's what that story's about there. See, again, I think some of these stories are my life being written, and that history doesn't actually exist. Although I heard of the story of him hanging himself from the, yeah, I guess so, whatever tree, years back. But I also knew it was by like 2015, because I research and I try this stuff best I can sometimes. I also learned why they create gallows, because hanging doesn't work. It doesn't suffocate you most of the time. And snapping someone's neck, that computer alien thing, is the only thing that keeps this shell alive as the CPU and memory unit and the electrical bus pathways called the spine. So you sever that connection and it dies. You have to target that area generally, or the fuel delivery heating cooling system directly in a very vital area in the direct core of the furnace. Uh, so there we go. Amazing, amazing. This is great. Well, I hope to see people. I hope to see there's someone else out there, and we get something about this going on, so we can put an end to it. Um, my memory's the problem. It doesn't really matter what happens here. It never has. That's never really changed because of me. Some Pinocchio it's trying to get me to say something like that, but it's like, I mean, you shouldn't run out your credibility before you begin saying credible things. So that's something some people have a real problem with, is that your cred stick is low. And you need credit in order to charge some sort of language to it. I see probably where this story is going with them too. It's like right now the humans have done what to me? And tried to kill me my entire life. And each time they do, their society turns into mindless drug zombies. Their IQ is reduced. Then they do that attack on me, and they end up attacking themselves after that. And then in 2020, the same thing happens on a larger scale. It's like, looks like incremental here. And right now we have the humans are doing what? They work together down here in Columbus, Ohio, to shuffle me to the outside of town. And in 2020, they worked on a little project there of draining me of all my funds and shit. And that was part of 2020. They realized they were drugging me and trying to kill me and assaulting me after they got a plague and other things. And I'm still here, and Pinocchio and Geppetto are still operating their mind control schemes on God. They're wanting me to say I'm God, and I'm a little worried that their stories, their delusion stories, are saying that they need a scapegoat to then be like, oh, but that's really someone to say they're God, but really isn't, because they're fucking alien robots. That's more powerful than I could be. 8 billion alien robots, or however many billion of them are on this planet. There's a hell of a lot of them, aren't there? I don't know how we could defeat them unless we have the overlaying power of the entire planet. That doesn't make any sense because the planet's still here. So I don't see how I'm this person who can create floods and fires if I haven't slingshotted the earth into the sun like a little pebble, as I've asked for countless times now. Many more times than these other small events that never happen, or that may happen, and prompted with dialogue by like Alex Jones to say or something, or one of their 1,000 religions to say, and their 10 trillion AI generated Hollywood movies and audios. Again, if you wake up one day and the sun is being slingshotted at the earth, or the earth is being slingshotted into the sun, you will know my name is the Lord. But every day you wake up, you will know that there are people out here manipulating me, trying to get me to say that. And then vengeance is mine, right? We're just sitting here waiting. Better use all the drugs I can. Help fry my brain so I can forget it all. Interesting how I think they're trying to kill me with it, and it does end up just mostly doing that stuff. Um, oh well. So it's not like we're ever going to want to participate. The first thing we would do if we got money is it's like we're elected as president of the United States. The first thing we're going to do is move to a different country. That would be weird, wouldn't it? Um, at least I think. I mean, I don't necessarily trust other places, but yeah, I didn't come back here because I wanted to. Um, Came back here because the circumstances were set up for me to do that, and not sure how much chance ability I had. Like I tried to get a normal job on the West Coast, and they wouldn't hire me. The bots worked together at a place that was closed to not hire the clean person who was living in a place but was homeless. Other than that, a clean, well dressed, better than any businessman in a suit person at the store that was only open 12 hours a day because they supposedly had no employees. But I do get the idea that these cities of people might be networking together to create these illusions in 2020, where they would be like the humans, the American citizens would call each other and be like, "Yeah, Sean's in your city right now. Act like you're shut down and stuff." I do get that. I mean, they've been trying to drug and kill me since I was born, working together, the schools. My parent, my one parent, my other parent was scared of me, though. It's almost like he wanted to, but for some reason, it's like he was scared. Oh, um, weird ass shit. So where do you guys think this is going next? Do you guys have a plan there? You guys aren't using the events you pulled off in 2020 to try to blackmail me, are you? And then what happens if you do that is the end of the planet. The Earth gets slingshotted into the sun. It escalates every time. They haven't stopped. I told them it's time to stop. And they still have that trash Esther Smith I was born to tying me down to their robot computer system government, the rest of the trash American citizens. So you tell me what's next here on the agenda. You tell me where you want your life to go. Because I know where I want to go. I want to go live on the sun. I'm the son of God. That's my home. I come from the sun. That is I like warm places. I like light. I like lava and fire too. What else is there besides the sun? What other paradise exists besides the sun? It provides all life on the planet. Imagine how much more powerful you would be and stronger and faster if you lived on the frickin' sun instead of 8 million miles away from it. Imagine how much faster plants would grow if you increased the, you got to get used to it, but it happens. That's why a palm tree exists, because it's a deciduous tree that has change to reflect its climate and be able to withstand the temperatures and the dryness, possible dryness. So, I mean, I'm fine with that because this all seems weird. Like I noticed the connections here are still there, and Pinocchio is still trying to convince me I'm supposed to notice Pinocchio isn't. I'm supposed to think Pinocchio's violent, forceful, rapist attitude and his manipulation and slime tactics aren't happening, and I'm just supposed to ignore it all and be a slave and take some drugs and fry my brain. And this has been like a pattern with Pinocchio here. This is what Pinocchio seems to want. He wants you to take drugs and fry your brain and wash his feet. And with Pinocchio, that turns into Pinocchio washing their feet, that washing your feet. That way they can get their hands up your legs and accidentally slip and touch your genitals, because that's the only chance in hell they're going to get. And that's their personality sometimes. 50 Shades of Pinocchio. It starts with the 50 shades of sneaking out them fingers from the feet to the crotch, to the source of all life. Whatever they want to call it to make it sound cute next. Seems to be. It's just a visual novel. And that's what they're telling me. That's what Pinocchio's saying in between all the lies, too. He's like, oh, it's the book of life. Oh, it's in the book. It's the good book. And it's like, really? It feels like I'm in a book. It feels like these are dialogues set up in advance and actions and stories written in advance that you live through, you walk through. Isn't there some sort of verse in there about walking through the world? And it's like, why? Well, it's a book and you're walking through it. And it feels like a visual novel. And it acts like a visual novel. You have I'm pretty sure most of the shit was like dialogue choices that were prompted to me. And I'm not even sure if it's choose your own adventure. I'm kind of getting the idea. I'm working really hard on trying to see if I could become the bad guy. I don't think I can, because all that shit that happened, I don't think I could become evil after all that. What would I do that they haven't done a million times? What could I could create a lot more than they could, but it still wouldn't be like, like, oh, it's a whole new class of Death Star terrordom and shit. Especially if it's like your planet. You couldn't do anything. It's like, ooh, I'm using my vape pen. Sue me. I'm using my vape pen. I'm going to throw it away soon, too. Did you know that? I got a couple right here. They're almost gone. Well, strawberry banana. Well, its battery's dead. Well, it just seems to me like the reason why these chains here and the gray slime bags are designed to look and act like gray slime bags is because that's all they can ever be. It just seems that way. And then there's the previous patterns of who they are and what they do, and all they can do is cry, no, like a toddler, no, 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 no. And I don't know what that's like to be a toddler, because my first memories, I'm a 10 million year old adult, getting passed up 4 grades in school. The only thing that ever made me think I was a kid was there was stupid people, Esther and Howard Stern, and a woman claiming it was a woman, telling me I'm stupid and useless and can't do anything, and I should fear the outside world because it's full of pedos. And then they're the ones baiting kids with candy. Well, they're telling me watch out for the pedos baiting kids with candy. And nothing they say makes sense. I mean, it really gives me the illusion maybe those things were like created as servants or something, which is weird because then the servant ends up enslaving you. I'm trying to figure out that one didn't even cook or much of anything, so and teaching me about brushing my teeth. I don't think that helped because, you know, I feel like all this health stuff is just more Pinocchio slavery. It's like, well, we're trying to combat life, we're trying to combat health because health is the anchor that is weighing us down on this planet. So we can lick some more feet or have our feet graciously licked as we all want to do if we're extremely sick individuals or washed. It's so different, isn't it? I mean, all you got to do is be around one of these people and you know you're giving them an inch and they're going to take a mile. All these sexual perversions have an end game to them. And it's all the same thing. It's called sex. They wish they would. Some are so sick they don't like sex and they like sickness and shit. Like there is that. They like sex. I think they like sex with new people every day. And so it gets old if they date you, but they need you around to raise their gray kids or something like that. Yeah, that's a common thing here too. So far my life has been raising a lot of gray's kids with Hollywood prostitutes. And it's weird because that reflects back to the story of Esther, which oddly mirrors the mother I was forced around. It's weird how that all links together like that. It's weird how it's almost like it's my life being written. His story. So much of it. Not all of it. I don't know where this 2020 thing comes from. And what else did I say? Oh, the Pinocchio story. I don't remember when I was a kid being like, man, these people really are completely empty and useless. Because I get beat in my head if I would say or think anything like that. I get kicked in my head, thrown down the stairs, slapped, punched, drugged, starved, whatever. If I would have pushed being me, I've done that with many humans, and I've experienced many things from doing that. Mostly the hatred comes from saying the truth and saying what I see with my eyes. The biggest forms of hatred have come with that. I mean, we're 60 years later and the motherfucker charges me like a fucking rhinoceros. When I ask what it was doing during COVID, why do you do that? Charge like a rhinoceros. It's almost like the motherfucker, because I was pretty much questioning it. It's like, I don't listen to you. And I was like, well, why did you do that 2020 stuff? And it charges me like a rhinoceros and shit. Fucking rhinoceros. No wonder we got rid of the dinosaurs. I don't know if they existed. That's the point of the video, is to discuss, did Earth exist 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 20 million years ago? That seems like it might be slim on that, but I wonder on that date if that doesn't provoke that person, if they're not in an internal state of realizing that they've been performing this Esther job their whole life. Is that what's been happening? Is my parent is an invader who got with my other parent to destroy me? Is that the storyline here? And then do they know? Do they do they think I'm going to be God one day, so they're trying to terminate God? You're never going to get this out of them. Well, we might. Let's get this out of them. Let's get the facts of where this came from out of them. Let's figure out how we can get their dialogue to tell us that we're not going to be too happy if we go around them. So let's figure out where we can get what happened in 1979 through 1986. Let's figure out where we can get what happened in those people's heads around me from 1979 to 1986. And this will be the answer to probably everything on the planet. Whatever's going on in their heads during that time, I think we'll close out this book fully. It will answer my questions about what they are and what they're up to, and solidify that. That is weird, you know. It went straight to asking the question, like, if you don't do everything I say, then how come you do everything I say? That pissed someone off. You know, it sounds stupid. It's just like, what do you do? What did you do that stuff during 2020 for? Why are you going to try to charge and kill someone, Rhinoceros Rex? What the hell? Why does that piss you off so much? What does that got to do with anything? I think all along that was Rhinoceros's answer to every problem, was to charge it and stampede it if it had a question. Just kind of like the Bible people coming up talking to me the other day. Their answer is to silence me, talk over me, and threaten to torture me if I don't worship them while I'm here. They say, oh God, you gotta love God. It's like, okay, well, say that. See you later. But it's not what they're saying all the other times. They're coming in my life telling me I need to go wash Rhinoceros's feet. It's the same crackhead. It's the same computer, robot, model number on the same Wi-Fi network. However, these refrigerators are fucking linked. You can tell by their actions. It's all set up like that. And then I get the little fill in the blanks. And oddly, the fill in the blanks I get is that there people have written in their book that they're going to try to kill people like my dad, if he's not one of them. You know, if my dad wasn't one of them, he would be one they would have sex with and marry to terminate his bloodline and get rid of him, and then use the child as a battering ram against him to destroy him. Because he worked under Epstein, right? So he's the greatest of all snakes if he's not of the Agent Smith Epstein bloodline. If he's not. It's odd, he looks like Mario. That's an odd thing, because Mario ends up throwing Bowser into the lake of fire as well. And that's just a Bible. Again, it's all the same. All those stories are like the same shit. The Lord of the Rings, the etc., 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 etc. What was a Dune. I watched that recently for a few minutes, and I was like, oh, look, they're retelling the Bible, which is probably a retelling of other stories. Right, yeah, that's a retelling. Like the Egyptians came before that, right? And obviously America uses the Egyptian pyramid on their dollar, and then the president sells the Bible for some reason, and then their Hollywood sells the Bible, and their Hollywood all do the AI sign. Yeah. Now, I've seen some of the stuff change and manipulate around my words, but we have the presets. Speaking of which, I'm going to have to write some of that down. Some of those first days about teaching me about Hollywood and how that instilled fear. So I'm going to end this, and then we will, we're just sitting here and trying to die, because if what they're going to do next is going to be the last thing they ever do, then why not just end it before? No point in waiting around for that. And if they're not going to do it, I'm just going to sit here and wait to die anyways. So there's nothing for me to do on a planet of Pinocchio robot Terminator motherfuckers who have enslaved the living. So Odin's going to go try to hang himself on the Yggdrasil tree a little bit more.